Hello and welcome back to another legendary episode of the one and only Speculation Alley. It's your boy A-Bomb here, and of course with me as always is my brother from another mother, Crypto Dilly. What's going on, my man?
Doing good, man. Just enjoying the beautiful weather outside and ready to get into some crazy topics with a couple special guests that are joining us today.
Yeah, we got Nana and Baron, two of the founders from Otherside FM and the OtherSpaceFM. So we want to hear from them. First of all, can you guys give us a little intro to yourselves and say hello?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Go for it, Baron.
No, I'm good. I'm excited to be with you guys. Met both of you in real life, which makes this all the sweeter, and stoked to talk about the metaverse with you.
Hell yeah, man. I'm Nana, the other co-founder of OtherSpaceFM. We started that space with, right after the first trip, which was back in July of last year. So coming up on almost a year now. And it's just been really fun to kind of, speculate, really get to know the people who are ambitious about creating and building in the other side. So super stoked to jump on this show, Speculation Alley, as I've been a big fan of you guys for quite some time.
Thank you. And with that, obviously you referenced the first trip. What is the first trip? And I mean, really, what is the other side?
Yeah, dude. So yeah, the first trip was our first experience on the other side. And Yuga had kind of put that out when the other side was released. They were talking about it being this open, interoperable metaverse. You can think of it as like a meta RPG, and that thousands can play at the same time. And that it's in development. And one of the things, it's like, oh, it's in development, it's not fully out. Well, they started doing trips, and they've done 2 trips so far where we get to actually take part in what the other side is like right now and start to try and break things and test it out. And so the first trip happened last July, so several months ago.
And how did
that was our first.
How did people get access to that? Like, what was the stipulation? Was anyone able to join, or was it limited to, people holding a specific NFT? How did you get access to that?
Yeah, the way you got access to the first trip was you had to have an other deed in your wallet. And so they consider people who own an other deed a voyager. And so all the voyagers were able to connect their wallet and then jump into the other side.
And what is if you buy an other deed, you get that off of like OpenSea, Blur, X2Y2, one of these platforms. When you are looking at buying an other deed, what are you looking for specifically on maybe what that land is?
I mean, that completely varies based on, how you want to use the land. And that's something Sean and I speculate about often. And we talk about when you're buying your deed, what is your purpose? What is your intent with it, right? Like for myself, I'm trying to create a story that ties all my worlds together. So I've gotten 3 acid lands. And I didn't really care about the tier. It was more about the visual I hope to create with that. So usually I'll tell people really think about how you want to create or what you want to do with it, and that'll help your decision quite a bit.
Do you guys have any speculation on sort of what you will be able to create or do with some of that land?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're still waiting on, but I think we're all very excited for, is the Otherside Development Kit. So that's going to be essentially their SDK to have creators build out whatever they want. Now, the other deed essentially comes with a template for that environment. So if you get another deed and it has a certain environment to it, because they have different types of environments, it's going to look and feel a certain way. And, Yuga is likely working on every single environment type and putting something together that really matches the lure and the feel of Otherside. But apparently you can also just start from scratch and build whatever world you want, as it's built on the Unreal Engine. So some people might have their own ideas on where they want to take this, but I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what Yuga puts out there. We got a little taste of what that like in-game footage looks like on the Bone Deed, with the previous trailer, as well as like in some of these trips, we can speculate on what deeds we were on. But that Bone Deed was something we had probably the most exposure to so far.
I think one big thing that's super fascinating about like all of this is like the second trip that was supposedly on one land deed, and it's very expansive in the way that we played and we were able to operate. And the way I foresee this kind of playing out is that we'll actually have like templates that they can just slap onto land, and you could actually have different things, just like Fortnite Creative or one of these different game modes where you're building out worlds. So there's a lot of excitement, and obviously interoperability plays a big role with that. Interoperability, for those of you watching, is whenever you're able to take one game asset, let's say a gun from Call of Duty, and be able to use that same gun in Fortnite. And so being able to have that, because it's all built on the same platform, I think that's why a lot of people are really excited about what's to come, as obviously it relates to gaming, but also as it relates to, as Baron said, a metaverse, right?
Yeah. What's interesting further and more about this is that we're seeing some games that have already been rolled out by Yuga. We had that 2D apes versus mutants, almost like app game that was played a while ago. They had a whole bunch of prizes for that, for whoever was the top ape or whoever was the top mutant. And as well, we just did Dookie Dash with the sewer passes, which then, we saw this dynamic NFT application applied to what was essentially a ticket almost, that then evolved into what's now known as the heavy metal. And they also have a lot of things going on with Heavy Metal Garage. We also see this other game, Legends of Mara, popping out. So can you guys give us sort of your take on how you view the other side and the games that Yuga's rolling out currently, and sort of how you view those?
Yeah, oh, sorry. Go ahead, dude.
No. I was just saying that's a lot to unpack. I'll jump in after you, Sean.
Yo, speaking to that interoperability, it seems that they're creating like these games and experiences where they can activate a community, and whatever NFT that's a part of that, or even the rewards that are a part of that, could very well carry on into whatever the next activation is. And I think that's really cool. You're not necessarily seeing that in the kind of broader gaming industry. So the Sword Pass, a really great example, how that Sword Pass, was gamified. People were using their skills to be able to get a better ranking, and that ranking translated into a new NFT. And that was a power source for heavy metal. And then that power source eventually evolved to an Evo 1 heavy metal, which is now going to activate in this new game that's coming up, Heavy Metal Forge. And that's going to allow us to figure out how to evolve our to a Evo 2. And so like the whole concept of taking these, game pieces and translating it to another activation with the community, whether it's a game or whatever it may be, I think is really cool. And it may even translate into the other side when it comes to heavy metal at some point. And I think we're starting to kind of really speculate that with like 10KTF as well. Like, how do these NFTs play into some type of experience we're going to also have in the other side? At some point, it's going to pop up. And we even may see that into kind of leading into Legends of the Mara. So Legends of the Mara, unlike the first trip and the second trip, where, people got to experience the other side as this 3D open metaverse, right? Where we're all running around, thousands of people at a time. Legends of the Mara is a 2D game experience, and it's a persistent experience. So they plan on having this for the longevity of the other side, and they're starting to trickle out the game mechanics little by little, week after week. And hopefully, I believe it's slated to come out like like this summer,
July, I
forget,
right?
I get confused on like what was said, like was it heavy metal? Was it Legends of Mara?
Yeah. Well,
but
so
I know it's going to happen this summer, you know?
And one big thing that you mentioned is obviously like the interoperability between like 10KTF and the speculation that's happening there too. And one of the big things that we speculated on was like the meteor shower that happened on New Tokyo, and we were talking about how those everyone's going to get airdropped these vessels. And then all of a sudden, we're able to claim vessels on land, and that's going to be translating right into Legend of the Mara and how that game's played. Can you talk a little bit about how Otherside land deeds correlate directly to like Legends of the Mara and how you use vessels?
Well, the first thing is you need a deed in order to, and a vessel in order to play the game.
Oh,
So one without the other doesn't really. I mean, you can have a deed, but you know what I mean. Like if you have a vessel, you need a deed in order to play the game. That's the first thing you need to know, because you need to nest the vessel on your deed. So that has to kind of have that period of time where it is whatever we do to it, whether it's we nurture it, feed it, whatever we have to do. That's the first thing to note.
so is it going to be like a Tamagotchi?
I mean, Spencer Tucker definitely hinted at it the other day when he posted a Tamagotchi, and then that's what Sean and I had speculated for a very long time. Was it was going to be something along the lines that we had to feed, protect, look after, make sure that it gets what it needs to evolve into whatever the next state is.
So this is where the fun kind of gets unpacked for myself, because this is where I dive deep into the speculation. Welcome to Speculation Alley officially right now. We're here to pump bags and obviously any, rug people. No, not really. But what we want to do, I think, is talk about some of the speculation that can go into Legends of Mara. And what we've heard is the Shattered, right? Like there's this almost like this foe or this enemy that's going to exist within this game, or maybe entirely in the other side. We don't know yet, but this is again part of that speculation where we might be contending or competing against this like shattered vessel, almost like this like I guess this tainted vessel, if you will. And I'm wondering if you guys are in the same thought process of whether or not this is going to be almost a AI put in place or robotic foe or competitive, obstacle that we need to face, the shattered vessels, or if this is going to be based upon those of us that do not nest our vessels appropriately on our land. And then if they are caused to be shattered, are we now in charge of like a shattered vessel that maybe is going to go rain terror on everyone? And do we see any rewards or prizes from that? Do you guys have any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, this is great, man. We do know like the Shattered are like these mysterious titans that awakened shortly after the vessels descended. That language to me kind of goes to see like, well, it may not necessarily be just a corrupted vessel. I do think that they are, there is a lot of speculation on like, what a corrupted vessel could do, because we don't know how a vessel can become corrupt. And so, but we do know based on the previous trailers that there seem to be like evil codas as well as like good codas. There's this whole play on the different colors like red and blue. And it's really exciting, because who knows if having a corrupted vessel could actually be something you might want to lean into. If it does happen to become corrupted. But I think they're also kind of, to the whole Tamagotchi thing, they're also kind of saying like, hey, you know what? You got to nurture these, and some of the like nurturing can be a task. And so I think that's what we're kind of learning is like, well, what do we got to do to make sure our vessels don't become corrupt? Because what I think is happening is the Shattered is like this common enemy that we all have, similar like the kaiju, it's like, oh, that's going to bring the community together to figure out how to defend ourselves from the Shattered in this case. And I think that's kind of what they're introducing with this whole thing. Once you got your vessel, you also got the obelisk piece. There's several pieces of the obelisk, which is metadata on the other deed as well. And you got the piece called Coda Origins. And I think that's what really this is all about. It's kind of like showcasing the story of how, like, who are codas? What the fuck is a coda? What are the origins of it? How did they become, how are some corrupt or some evil, some not? And Maras are kind of playing into that. So the idea is a vessel creates a Mara that evolves into a coda Mara. And I think we'll start to see like what recipes work, what don't. But the Shattered, I feel like, is this common enemy that they're creating in the lore, so that they can incentivize people to work together to like defend ourselves from the Shattered.
I love that. I also like, based on that breakdown, and what you had alluded to previously about obviously these pieces being like used in the future. Do you think right now, as it looks, Legends of the Mara will be a 2D game board in which we play out this game? But do you see these game pieces, the Coda Maras, translating into a 3D avatar that's playable in the Metaverse once the other side is up and operational?
That's one of the most speculative questions we could go down, honestly, because the 2D world is, we know it to be persistent, is what they say. So does that mean like this is going to be continually how we have to do this function for the game, or is this just going to be the first option we're given for this game, and maybe they have different purposes down the line, right? So I do think at some point all things will end up Otherside characters and operable experiences in there. In what capacity? Like, will we get to be them versus will they be NPCs? I have no idea about that.
Well, that's a really good question. Go for it, Anna, please.
Dude, I'll share too. Like, they do seem to have like PFPs that are available for the codas. Like, you can put them as your PFP. So, at first I thought they may be NPCs, non-playable characters. And in Legends of the Mara, they're essentially cards. It's like a card game in my head. But when it goes to having like the 3D avatars or you being able to play it, my hope is that I could be my ape and then I'd still have my coda floating around me. Similar to how the coda was, beside Curtis in the Otherside trailer. And so that's kind of where I also hope to see the Maras, and the coda Maras as they like float around right next to whatever avatar that you do have, kind of like your sidekick in the other side.
So kind of leaning into that that Baron was mentioning, that non-playable characters. I agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I connect a lot of stuff to either like
Diablo,
World of Warcraft and Diablo. Thank you. Yes, Dilly. And having those little characters that go pick up gold or pick up, stuff
sign it to do something.
Exactly, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But I am curious to see again what does happen with sort of these Shattered and this. It almost seems like this negative or dark energy, right? That's out there. Like, if that's the Shattered, and like if it affects you or you like inhale this or whatever, you might get a little, evil or something. I don't know, but I'm really curious. And the one thing that you pointed out was the lore. And that's what kind of is sticking out to me right now. It looks like Yuga is almost like shifting a little bit if you look at this, where they're developing a game. It's a 2D game, as we've discussed, but they're developing a lot of story and insight potentially for kind of what you laid out, Nana, which is like, what the fuck is a coda? What's a coda Mara? How did they come to be? And all of these other elements that seem like they're sort of getting ready to kind of drop the ball on all of us with.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because as we make certain decisions, as people who are playing Legends of the Mara, whatever the results of that is kind of like, it's going to tie into the history of what it is. So, as people evolve their Mara, people are going to have different recipes for evolving that Mara. And I think there's going to be an element of experimentation and what people have access to that's going to play into it. That's where the sediment fragments really come into play. So, if you have a vessel that turns into a Mara, eventually there's going to be a time where you take that Mara and you convert it to a Kodamara. And one of the optional things that's shown in one of the diagrams is it says sediment fragments, and it's optional. And I think, based on what you have access to, there's going to be some really interesting recipes that will result in different traits for your Kodamara. And so I think, like, as people participate in it, kind of like in 10KTF, as people participate, it at the same time creates the story of what's happening with these collections on chain. So there's some really, really interesting things they're doing to tie in, like, narrative as well as all the behaviors of what their users are doing to evolve the collection.
I think that's the coolest part, is that you have all these different pieces and different components, but no matter what your level of investment or participation is, you can buy one item and still participate in the whole greater ecosystem. So whether you're buying an Other Deed, or you're buying a vessel, or you're buying, just any type of character in the Yuga verse, ultimately you'll be able to play that. And I think that correlates well into the Agora and the greater marketplace that we've speculated will actually play out for Yuga. And they're really building this, and they're tying in lore. And I think a lot of the lore kind of relates to Quentin Tarantino, where it's like starts at the end and then finishes in the beginning, kind of like aspect, where everything will eventually converge to tell this greater story where you think you have everything nailed down and you know where it's going to go, but it takes a wild turn, and then eventually, like, the climax happens and you're like, oh, that was right in front of my face the whole time. And so that's what's super exciting about all these games, all the different development, the interoperability of everything. And ultimately, I think that I'm just excited to see how all these games play out, and Legends of the Mara sounds like is the next one on the game board. So that pretty much sums it up. Any final thoughts from you guys on Otherside, Legends of the Mara, heavy metal, anything Yuga related?
I mean, I'll say the one thing that's Yuga related from a community perspective is OtherSpaceFM, which is the show Sean and I have been, loving, facilitating, growing since the first trip. And there's no stopping what we plan on doing in terms of the long run. And, we even bought our own deed to build in the other side as a community. So excited to create and just be part of this with everyone out front.
Yeah, man, I think just being able to do it together, we see that in Twitter Spaces when we're figuring things out, Speculation Alley, 10KTFM, that's when the community comes together to really just figure out, like, what the hell is all happening, and do it in fun ways, right? And I think with Legends of the Mara and the Otherside, there's certainly an aspect of, like, builders, creators, artists who are really looking to get the most out of their Otherside experience, to showcase what's possible, or start their own business, or show off their work. And there's going to be some really cool things that are going to be built by, so much user generated content, so to speak, that there has to be some way to discover all of this. And that's what we really hope to facilitate, is just, like, really great discovery with all the people that are doing really dope shit within the community. And that's kind of where it's like, well, besides waiting for the other side, what can we do right now? And that's kind of where the Discord comes in. That's where the spaces come in. And when it comes to Legends of the Mara, you can tell it's very strategy driven. And I think there's going to be, I'll add, like, a little bit more speculation into this, but there's going to be, incentives for the community to come together and work together. And in even the Battle.town trailer, we saw how we're going to need to form teams. Like, there's going to be a need where we might need Crypto Dilly's, FOMO sword and his entire loadout to be partnered with A-Bomb and your Oni Force, or whatever it might be.
Flamethrower?
Yeah, with your flamethrower. And just be able to stack a nice little team to go on some sort of mission. Well, as in the other side, there's so many different components where I could see, if people have these vessels or these Maras, but need to help out on a certain deed that's on the opposite side of the map like there might be ways for us to come together and, whether it be entering the codes like in battle.town, like we're apparently going to have the ability to do, but some sort of way to be able to like come together, put our assets together and go about some sort of mission and then be, effectively rewarded for that. And hopefully in a trustless way where it's not just one person that needs to redistribute the rewards. Like we can do this all on chain or just through the game, where it happens automatically. So that's what I'm really hoping for. I'm really hoping for just and I see like, man, they're going to try and continue to get the community to work together. And I think that's kind of where it's really exciting to be on things like this and be a part of the community that's all like in it to figure it out and find ways that we can like help each other out. So I'm just super pumped, man. More information should come. And I think that's kind of what we're all feeding for right now. Is just give us more information so we can get into this game and start playing.
With that being said, I mean, real quick, I just want to highlight Otherside wiki.xyz. If you're new to Otherside, you're new to looking at these deeds, go on to the wiki, go check it out. It gives you a breakdown of the environments, the sediments, the artifacts, everything that is other deed related. Definitely go on to OtherSpaceFM. They hold down Twitter Spaces every single Thursday, and they also have a Discord where you can hop in and be a part of like the other guild, different things where they're talking about this stuff consistently, so you can get involved. With that, A-Bomb, you have any closing thoughts?
No, man, just had a lot of fun today. And yeah, please go check these guys out. They're amazing community members that offer insight and help on a weekly basis. And there's so many tools and resources out there. So no excuses, y'all. Hop on the train.
With that, I want to say thank you to Nana and Baron Von Hustle for joining us today on this special episode of Speculation Alley. If you have any if you've gotten any value from this episode, subscribe to our channel, give this video a thumbs up, and comment what your speculation is below. And with that, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.